What's going on, guys? Seth and Chevy here. We watched the first episode of Nier Automata, or Autonoma, however you like to say it, 1.1a. And yeah, new season of anime, new year. Happy New Year for anybody who didn't watch the Trigun episode. Make sure to check that out if you're curious about a review of that episode. But yeah, we're here to talk about Nier Automata. Now, apparently this is just a anime version of the video game. Seems almost verbatim. Felt very familiar to me watching it. So real quick recap without really thinking about, the elements of this that are in the video game and the story. We have some robots who are on a mission to go kill a giant Goliath type robot. Androids. Yeah, not robots, androids, sorry. The first, or the main one being 2B, who in the beginning is kind of flying through the sky, fighting a bunch of robots, not androids. I always got to get my terminologies correct on that. In which she is pursuing this Goliath type robot. Pretty much just a lot of scenes of like her flying around, fighting things, shooting things. We get a scene of her fighting some robots that's actually animated when she's flying around. It's all CGI. And yeah, very much like the video game. Felt like the video game had the soundtrack of the video game, which I appreciated. When I said that, you said that people would be upset if they didn't have it, probably, but I still appreciate that they did it because if you haven't played the games, you should, and the music is phenomenal, one of the best soundtracks in a video game. And for transparency's sake, we've both played Nier Automata. We've both beaten Nier Automata, so
not completely. I didn't beat ending C or D.
I don't think I did the last ending either, but I've played through it. Yeah. So anyway, she gets paired up with a scanner android 9S, who's going to help her out in her mission to take down the Goliath. In which it's funny because like it's just like the one boss battle is the whole episode, so it's not really a whole lot to go into. She fights essentially a defense robot, big arm that is not the Goliath. And then eventually does run into the Goliath, which is just a giant fucking like oil refinery. It's just like a big building, which I thought was really interesting. I literally while watching this, I was like, I just want to play the game again now. Like this is just so much like the game. Yeah, so she starts trying to fight the Goliath. 9S supports her, starts hacking the Goliath while she pursues fighting him physically, and ends up fucking getting got. 9S does, after successfully hacking the robot, in which he is fading. His vitals are going. 2B goes back into the fight after that, and I forgot how the arm got hacked. It's floating.
It got blown off at the beginning, and 9S had hacked it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So she has that now, and is able to take out one of the arms of the Goliath when it swings at her, and then is able to jump out of her mech to take down the Goliath, in which she is blown away, knocked down, and is met by 9S, who is still deteriorating after getting taken down, and tells her that he was able to back up their data, while 3 new Goliaths are showing up. So obviously things are getting dire, and they decide to, at the end of the mission, because their mission is to destroy the Goliath, merge their black boxes, cause an explosion, a giant explosion that takes out all the Goliaths. That's basically the episode. We have an outro sequence that is, we have a lot of them, but the first one, the show's credits, is still the episode playing forward where, for anybody who hasn't played the games, it is revealed that when they go down, they can essentially be replicated, but 2B's data was actually backed up, so she has memory of what happened. She goes to check on 9S, and he reveals that he didn't back up his data. He backed up hers. He prioritized her. So he doesn't have any recollection of any time before their rendezvous. So he doesn't even really remember outside of knowing that the mission was complete, and she's left with the memories of that mission. It'll be really interesting to see where this show goes, because I know where the story goes, but how they handle it will be interesting with how verbatim they did this first episode. Then we got a couple sequences after that of just kind of like giving information on A's for assault, B's for battler, S is for scanner when it comes to their names, and just a couple tidbits about the black boxes and how everything works for anybody who doesn't know, because maybe somebody who's watching this anime who didn't play the video games.
It's definitely there for the anime only.
And the show definitely feels like it's really interesting. We'll jump into impressions. It's really interesting how as somebody who's played the game, a lot felt familiar, but when I was watching this, I was like, I wonder what this is like for somebody who hasn't played the games.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Maybe I should talk to Sarah, because I don't know if she's played the games or not, but it'd be interesting to see her watch this and see what she gets out of it, because a lot of it's just stuff you know already from playing the game. So I wonder how well it conveys information, or how mysterious maybe this first episode feels if you haven't played them. But then the end of the episodes tell me stuff. I'm like, yeah, I know a lot of that. But for somebody who doesn't, maybe that was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And how effective is it to relay that information just right at the end of the episode like that? It's really interesting. But yeah. So anyway, this was done by Studio A1. You said.
Yeah, A1.
Who did
films or something like that?
Who did Sword Art?
Yeah, that's off the top of my head. I know they did Sword Art
okay.
Online. I also know they had a part in Darling in the Franxx, which I have mixed feelings on that.
Interesting. I watched like the first 3 episodes of Sword Art back in the day, and I couldn't get into it. But I know a lot of people really liked it.
Fair.
They made a bunch of video games. They did a bunch of stuff with it. And so I know it was popular. So I do have a little bit of experience with the studio, seeing what they've done before. And they've obviously made something successful, so that's good for them. So when it comes to this anime, visually, I really like the animation of it. I like the way they draw the characters, and the combat animation is really good when it's actually animation. I think the CGI was actually a little lacking, but I'm able to look past that because if the storytelling's there. I mean, I grew up in the 90s watching anime, and there's a lot of like freeze frame, people yelling, flashing backgrounds and stuff. And if the story's good, you could get past it. We're so spoiled nowadays when it comes to animation.
Big time.
And so when I'm seeing like in the beginning, a scene I'm familiar with from the game, but like, the 3D models look really stiff and they're just kind of spinning the model in the air and stuff like that. The textures are low and stuff like that. It's not bad. It's fine. But it's like we just watched Trigun, which had like a really good 3D animation. So it was like a bad contrast.
Pretty jarring difference.
Yeah, it was a pretty, like I was looking at that. I was going to say something like, that's fine. A lot of shows, like the animation when it comes to the 3D isn't that great. Trigun's was just really good. So it's hard to compare the two. It's just weird to watch them back to back. So not trying to rag on it too much, but I'm trying to be objective about it. It was noticeable. I looked at them like, it's not the best ever, but I was happy to see when it showed her fighting the robots with her sword that I really enjoyed the way it looked. I think her character model, it's not a game. The way they designed her looks really good. I think the animation was good. It's not the smoothest ever, but it was effective and it's super stylized. That's the thing I really liked about it. They really emphasized her movement from the games, where she's doing a lot of like turns and kind of flips and like swinging the blade in like really fluid ways.
Super acrobatic, yeah.
Yeah, even when she went up the ladder, she kind of flipped off it like in the games. And so they're definitely trying to capture the movement you feel in the games in the animation. I think they do a really good job. So where I do see weakness in the 3D, I do think they're doing the right things when it comes to the animation. And then when they mix the two, I think it's effective still too, because like, you ask somebody to animate a giant oil rig as an enemy, that someone has to fight. It's kind of a big task. So, you put what you can into the 3D of that. And I think they did a good enough job. They got the point across. He swings, they take the arm off. But then when she came out, and it's just the animation, I think it looked really good. When she comes down, stabs and blows up. Yeah, voice acting's good. I thought it was funny at the end when I was listening to him talk. I asked you as it was going, I'm like, is that Tanjiro? Like, it sounds just like him. You looked it up, and the guy playing 9S is Tanjiro, because the end is kind of similar to how Demon Slayer has like this like fun, quirky ending, and it's the same voice actor. So I'm like, this sounds like when they're doing those little secret things that they do.
The lore drops
Yeah.
and comedy bits. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was interesting. Voice acting was good in the episode. Definitely happy with that. I think the person playing 2B did good. I think Tanjiro playing 9S was doing really good. It was just really interesting. It's weird for me to review this because I feel like I've watched this before, but I haven't. But I just played the game. But I think they did a good job. I'm actually pretty excited to see how they conveyed the story as an anime. But I was unaware that this is going to be. I didn't know if it's going to be like their own like kind of like interpretation of the story or like like their own 2B story they're going to do on their own. But like apparently it's just like straight up the game, and I'm okay with that. But yeah, it was cool. I just don't know. I don't know. I feel like I've seen everything, so it's hard for me to get really excited about everything. It literally just made me want to play the game. So yeah, what were your impressions of it?
Well, first off, like you said in the beginning, when we kind of see the 3D, it was a little jarring. Mostly, because it wasn't the very good 3D to begin with, but also we just got done watching Trigun, so the difference was massive in that regard.
Huge.
It is serviceable. It's fine. Honestly, the only time I didn't I kind of was like, I hate to use the word, but kind of cringed a little bit at it was when they showed 2B in 3D. She looked bad, sitting in the mech, but fortunately we didn't have to it's not the whole show, right? It's just the beginning. Once it showed her in 2D, it's the 2D is great. Like they did the character a lot of justice. It looks just like her. They paired a good voice with her. Captures her I don't like to have fun nature basically. All business.
While 9S is like trying to talk about because he hasn't worked with anybody ever.
Yeah.
Just like in the game, he's just like, oh, blah 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 blah. She's like, is this even important to the mission? He's like, oh, I guess not. Like,
and he's more kind-hearted and sociable and stuff like that in the game too. And they captured that really well. Also, I would have never thought to use the voice actor for Tanjiro, but it fits really well.
Yeah, he did great.
It actually sounds very similar to the game, so that's interesting to see. Like you said, when she's fighting the smaller robots in 2D, and they're kind of showing off her acrobatics while also swinging a sword around. I really liked that. It wasn't the most amazing animation ever, but it was very consistent and done very well.
Yeah, I think I liked the style more than the animation itself. The animation was fine; it wasn't even bad.
They caught scenes well, which I think is important. Not everything you can't expect everything to be the most amazing animation in the world. We're all spoiled, like you said, 100%. Yeah. There's some shows out there that are really kind of set a crazy bar. So, but I really did enjoy the animation. It's done really well. I'm glad. And then when they were doing blending of 3D and 2D, it was less obnoxious for me to see the 3D. I think the beginning was just bad because it was just purely 3D. And I saw in the credits it was Blender, so it's just something you could have done at home, basically.
It literally looked like 3D models they made in Blender, and then they're in the editor just spinning the model around, not actually animating the model, but just turning it really quickly. Because there was a scene where she spun and then moved, and it looked like it was just like back in the 70s when they used little models and they just floated them in front of a camera with a background. It looked like that, but with a 3D model. And then when 9S was flying there in the mech, and then he flew back, but it's just really stiff looking. It looked like a toy getting pulled away, and then it showed him, and just stiff model flew off over here, and then there's an effect behind him.
But I do think he looked better than she did in the beginning.
He did, yeah. But these are moments where I was like, the animation, and it's a robot, it's gonna be stiff, but it looked very stiff. It looked locked into place, and it kind of took me out of those scenes. It looked like I could peek behind the animation and the CGI and see what the studio was doing, and make me appreciate more how Studio Orange is, what they're doing with their 3D.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and not comparing them too much, but we did watch them back to back, so
yeah, it's hard just thinking about it now.
But I do agree. The thing that was the saving grace for me is when I saw the 2D animation. I was like, okay, I can get behind this. I like this for sure.
And then as far as the adaptation aspect of it goes, super faithful. They're doing an interesting blend of endings A and B put together, which I kind of like. It makes sense because, from a gameplay standpoint, you play a perspective and then you play a perspective, and in the anime we see both at the same time. So the blending has been very good. Seeing scenes from both people's paths has been great.
It'd be kind of difficult to do unless you did like half the season was like from her perspective and then half the season was from his.
Well, they could have just ignored one too if they really wanted to.
I think it's more effective though if you're going to be merging characters into their stories. And it's an anime too, so like one episode could just be only about like 9S and what he did during that time. They can
Yeah,
still
if they want to
merge
stretch
the two.
it for sure.
Yeah.
But I do think the blending is they've done a good job.
Yeah.
And it still comes out faithful. They've added a couple extra scenes, but it was like, nothing that matters. I think it added, especially a lot of it was just like showing off the world, specifically in this case, the warehouse. Yeah, I like that they included acrobatics because that's definitely part of her character. Everything she does in the game, every weapon she uses, etc. She's very animated in combat.
It's been a while since I played the game, so I forgot the name of the thing that floats. Pod, yeah. I like that they even put that into the combat scenes because it's like a huge part of the fighting in the game.
Oh, if you're not swinging, you should be shooting.
Yeah, exactly. So while you're dodging around and stuff.
Yeah.
But there's multiple scenes in this where she was fighting and like it would fly in and it, like obliterated one guy, and then later she attacked somebody. This big guy jumped at her. It flew and shot him up, but it wasn't able to take him down. Then she had to continue fighting him. So.
I also liked when she threw him up and then jumped up to float down with him because you do that in the game all the time. So
yeah, it's a completely faithful, borderline verbatim anime made with the game in mind 100%. That's why I was curious about anybody who hadn't played the game how they would take this in.
Yeah, so obviously there's not any surprises here in the story department. So
and I don't expect there to be.
Yeah. I expect there not to be at this point because I don't know. The story is pretty good, so I'd be afraid of them tampering with it too much.
I kind of like the idea though of like if they complete this and it tells the whole story of Nier Automata, to have a way to go through the story without playing through the game if you didn't want to, or having a different way to go through that story.
Well, there might be people who don't enjoy the game, right?
Sure, don't want to play it. Yeah. But I was thinking too while watching this, you could like literally take, because it's so verbatim from the game, that you could take like chunks of this anime and throw it in as cutscenes to the game.
Oh yeah.
Between fights, and it would work.
Yeah.
Because it just was like the same thing outside of they are blending the different playthroughs, but yeah.
Yeah. Music's fantastic. I own the soundtrack. Like I listen to it all the time still.
Yeah, it's still one of the best gaming soundtracks of the last
Okabe is amazing.
10 years.
So I was very happy to hear that, and they did the right music, the right scenes, etc. So that was fun. Seeing how they handled the Goliath was interesting. I think they did a pretty good job. Obviously, like you said, they kind of chose to do 3D because it's easier on an object that big. I didn't think it was bad. It looked fine. It was better than probably most of the 3D in the whole episode.
Yeah.
Especially because that boss fight is very stiff anyways in the way it moves, and it just fit. So we didn't really get the scene where Ninus is kind of like defending himself on top of the Goliath, but that's really kind of not necessary. That's just me nitpicking.
Only so much time in the episode.
Yeah,
so.
for sure. And it doesn't add anything. It's just gameplay wise, it was a cool scene, but story wise, it doesn't really do anything, I suppose.
I thought the hacking sequence was cool though.
I was actually curious how they're going to handle that because the hacking in the game is very gamified. Like you're a ball shooting at blocks basically. So
yeah.
I think the way they handled it was more fun visually for
an anime.
For sure. I like that a lot. And I am very curious to see because I know, obviously, I know the story at least up until the end of A and B, how they're going to handle some of the sequences, especially because there is a lot of times where 9S has these huge hacking moments, and there's some pretty crazy moral things in this story. So I'm curious to see it, but so far, yeah, I'm liking it. It is going to be kind of weird watching something knowing what's going to happen, though. So,
yeah, that's how I felt. Like I just didn't think about it. And I was watching. I'm like, Oh, I know. I already know what happens in this, but it's still cool to watch. So I'll definitely want to keep watching it to see um, what they do with it.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a lot of fun.
But yeah, I enjoy the art and the animation, which is basically what we're going to be here for. So
Yeah. Unless they change something up, really throw like a curveball in there, which could be possible, but this does seem like a more complementary anime to the original game for possibly mega fans of the game or people who didn't play the game.
yeah.
So
Also, the OP was done by Aimer. I'm sure if you watch anime enough, you know who Aimer is. She's amazing.
I didn't like the intro.
I didn't like the visuals.
Yeah, the song was fine,
Yeah.
but like the visuals, I was like, why?
Yeah, no,
it's just
it-
like industrial locations, and then like the anime characters like
on
the
surfaces.
walls. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I
thought
wasn't
that
a
was kind
huge
of
fan
weird.
of that either.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite Aimer song either, but I love her voice, so it was still fun to listen to.
Yeah,
And then yeah, the little puppets at the end was a fun touch. I like when studios get a little creative with how they're gonna handle, stuff like that. Like recently with Pop Team Epic, they had whole episodes where it was in real life and it was really weird, but fun. So
yeah, and the Nier games all have like this kind of weirdness to them every once in a while that this kind of felt kind of at home with. So I'm waiting to see the fucking head.
Oh, and when they were on the station at the end, the color shift going to, was that monochromatic or whatever?
Yeah,
Just like the game. So that was great. So
yeah, I felt like I was playing the game without playing it, so it was really weird. Yeah, anything else?
nope, I'm just looking forward to seeing how it goes. So
Yeah. Yeah, all in all, I liked it. Definitely got to keep watching it. So maybe next weekend we'll do another 2 episodes and see where it goes. But yeah, let us know in the comments what you guys think of the first episode of Nier Automata 1.1a.
yep.
Okay, I'm just gonna start calling it Nier Automata from now on. But you guys know that I know what it is. At the very least, let us know what you thought of this episode. Though, have you played the games? What do you think about what they've done with the transition from game to anime? Did they miss anything from the game in the anime? What did you think of the scenes? What did you think of the CGI? What did you think of the animation? Are they doing it justice? What did you think of the soundtrack? Especially if you've never played the game, what do you think of that? And yeah, until the next episode, I've been Seth. This has been Chevy, and we'll talk to you later.